Welcome to another edition of Broken Brains with your host, Bruce Parkman, sponsored by the Matt Parkman Foundation. The show is all about the issue of repetitive brain trauma in the form of repetitive head impacts in contact sports and repetitive blast exposure for our military veterans, and what these conditions are doing to the brains of our children, our athletes, and our military, and how this phenomenon is not trained in our doctors, nurses, and psychological and suicide prevention courses, so nobody knows that when we have problems like mental health, there could be another cause to it. So we reach out to athletes and doctors and researchers and authors to bring you the best information so you can make informed decisions about the ones you love, because you are in the front line of this issue here in this country, because it is the largest preventable cause of mental illness that we have. Today, another amazing guest on our show, an NFL football player, Matt Skura, signing in from Charlotte, North Carolina. Matt is a former professional NFL offensive lineman, talk about RHI there, known for his leadership and resilience. Born in 1993 in Columbus, Ohio, Matt played college football at Duke University, also located there in fine state of North Carolina, where he started over 40 games and earned first-team All-ACC honors, no small feat there, and he graduated a degree in psychology in 2015. Undrafted in 2016, Skura signed with the Baltimore Ravens, becoming a full-time starter and at center by 2018. He played 54 games for the Ravens before moving on to stints with the Dolphins, Giants, and Rams, appearing in 77 games with 73 starts over his career. Off the field, Matt Skura is a mental health advocate and speaker, using his platform to promote resilience and well-being with an intellectual approach to the game and life beyond football that has made him a highly respected figure, both on and off the field. Matt, welcome to the show, sir. Really appreciate you being here, man.
Thank you. I'm fired up.
Hey, dude. All good, man. So how'd you get into football, man? Tell me a little bit about your boyhood, your childhood. What got you into football? Did you play other sports too, or what?
Yeah, football was really my third sport that I fell in love with. So hockey, ice hockey in particular, was my very first sport. So I loved it because I'm the middle of two brothers, and just being physical and knocking people over was just second nature. I was like, yeah, I love hockey too. So hockey, baseball, and basketball were really my three sports. And then I tried to play football in fourth grade. And so it's kind of funny. It's like in that Ben Stiller movie Fat Camp, it's like step on the scale, then get off the scale. It was like that kind of moment for me. I was very overweight for my age category, but I still went ahead and played, except I had to play 2 years above me. And I had a horrible experience with football. I was, playing with fifth and sixth graders. I didn't understand the game of football, knew nothing about it. They just threw me on the offensive line, had no idea what was going on. So I actually quit, came back in seventh grade. I just had some buddies in middle school who said, "Hey, Matt, would you want to come and play football with us?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, might as well." And that's where things took off. And so that's really where my obsession and passion with football took off. Loved it ever since. Did some track and field in high school to kind of keep me balanced with other sports. But yeah, and then so that was all in Columbus, Ohio with high school football. And then Duke brought me down to North Carolina and been here since 2011. So that's the short run of it.
So you've been so you're on the line the whole time. You're O line or D line, just playing the line, or did you specialize in a certain position?
I was offensive and defensive line. I started out as a tackle just because I was pretty tall for my age and all of that. And then as I was getting recruited for college football, all the coaches and schools were saying, "Hey, we think you'd be more a center or guard, but mostly center." And so by like my junior, senior year, my high school coach actually said, "Hey, let's get you some reps at center just to get used to snapping the football and playing in a game." So didn't really specialize, probably like late into my senior year of high school, and really didn't focus on center until college, which is kind of crazy, but it allowed me to be very versatile and really could understand the problems of everyone on the offensive line.
So did you end up playing both sides of the ball? I see that a lot, like in high school and stuff like that. You playing back in the offense and defense.
Oh yeah, yep. So I was starting on both offensive and defensive line. It did punt return a little bit, did kick return a little bit. So just wherever I could be on the field, like especially like my junior and senior year, I felt like I was never leaving the field. I mean, I'll never forget. I had to start the game on defensive line. The offense we were playing against was very up tempo. They drived like all the way down the field. And I think we stopped them on like the 10-yard line on like a fourth down. And just not even thinking about it, I'm like, great, I have to be right back on offense again. And I'm dead tired in the first quarter of the game. So it was a double edged sword for sure.
Yeah, I bet you, we start talking. Well, first, I want to digress with my boy because it was in middle school too, where he got approached. He was a little bit overweight, right? And he was still finding his way. Great goalie in soccer. That's why they put the overweight kids, man. Put him in goal. And the kid's like, he came to me one day. He goes, "Dad, can I play football?" And I'm like, "You want to play football?" He goes, "Yeah," because he was playing hockey, and I got him on the skis. That was because I hated those 4 o'clock mornings. And then he played a little bit of rugby, and I was like, and then he was always wrestling, loved wrestling. And I was like, "You want to play football?" And I was like, "I never played." I'm like, "Well, that's kind of like, yeah, let's go." But I don't know how it was for you, but he just loved the guys, right? And that was his first time being on a football team with all the joking and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, he was a
Yeah.
blindside guy. He never had to play both sides of the ball though, and I can't imagine what that must be. So like, I mean, it's just the amount of the workout you get. I mean, it's crazy, but also the amount of dings upside the head because you're getting hit on every play. It doesn't matter if you're on the line, you're getting hit.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like it's physical no matter which way you put it. And yeah, you're always going to get hit by someone, no matter if even if you try to avoid anyone, then you're going to make a tackle or whatever it is. So yeah, it was fun. And I got to play. So again, I said I'm in the middle of three brothers. So I got to play on varsity with my older brother. He played offensive and defensive line. And then when my younger brother made varsity, got to play with him on the offensive and defensive line.
Three
So
brothers all in the line.
yeah, yep. And so it was a lot of fun, like being able to play Friday nights with your brothers, like literally. And like you said, like the teammates and the locker room atmosphere, that's what makes it so special.
It does, man. And, that's one of our, pushes is why people say, dude, you don't, yeah, it's like people think that we want to kill football. It's like, no, dude, are you kidding me? I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, outside of the military, my most fun was being with my rugby guys. I've been playing rugby for 45 years. It's so fun. And most of the fun is after you play or before you play, just that camaraderie. So yeah. No, I get it, man. So did you pick Duke? Was that like your number one choice when you went to college?
No, so growing up in Ohio, like my dream school was Ohio State, and I got recruited by them a little bit, and then they ended up going with another guy over me, so that kind of spoiled it. But was really looking at Big Ten, and at the time it was Big East, so I think they're now the AAC and MAC schools. And really, the Duke thing came up just out of nowhere. We were having a 5 a.m. workout in the wintertime, and the offensive line coach, Matt Luke, shows up, watches me work out in our gymnasium and invites me to one of their summer camps. And funny enough, like I actually, it's kind of like everyone else. You hate Duke just because of Duke basketball. And so it was funny because my wife grew up in Raleigh a little bit and her family were huge Duke fans. And so she actually had to convince me to say, like, Matt, like, Duke, like, you just take away football, think about the education. And so
Right.
her and I started dating in high school and all through college. But yeah, she was the one that helped guide the ship in that way. And I took a visit down to Duke and I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm not coming here. Just how beautiful it was. Even though it was hot, like I just enjoyed it so much. And the head coach, David Cutcliffe, was amazing, buying into his vision and getting to meet some of the players and seeing how they thought and their mindset was incredible.
That's great, man. And so and then what did you major in when you went to Duke?
Psychology and human development.
So what made you pick those areas, man? That's not like underwater basket weaving, man. That's some high stuff, man.
Yeah, I always had been around medicine, so my dad was an orthopedic surgeon, and growing up just was always in his office seeing all of his patients, and then sometimes he would let us shadow his surgeries, so get to see hip and knee replacements. So I was always kind of around medicine, and
That's cool, man.
yeah, it was really awesome. So I thought I wanted to go that route, and then I just couldn't like myself, I just couldn't balance pre-med and Division 1 football. So I was like, well, what's something that I can also use that's kind of it's medically kind of on that path, but also help me in football. And so I really took to psychology and understanding the behaviors and tendencies of my opponents. And that really helped me as a player. Like, I wasn't the most athletic or physically like imposing player ever, but I knew if I used my mind, my preparation, those things would allow me to win almost 9 times out of 10, just expecting when a blitz is going to happen. Well, this guy, I've been watching him all week. When he puts this hand down, I know he's going to move or he's going to want to try this move. So the psychology degree kind of played on itself and really allowed me to understand the game at a much deeper level. And it helped me transition to the NFL.
Dude, I can't I mean, that must have been comforting, you and your 3 brothers being on the high school football team and your dad being an orthopedic surgeon. I
Yeah.
hope you
So
weren't in his office too often.
no, you know what? It's funny. Like, he did not want really any of us to play football, like strictly just because of the injuries and all of that. And I did like everything in my power to convince him, like, no, like this is like I love this. I love working out. I'm committed to it. My freshman year of high school, we're doing like a walkthrough, and I get hit like a linebacker hits me from the front, and then I like stumble backwards and catch myself. Well, then I end up breaking my thumb and needing surgery and having to be out for like a large portion of the season. But I was like, Dad, just continue to let me, like, I promise this will be like my only injury. Luckily, it really was. And yeah, so thankfully I was not very injury prone and stayed out of his office that way. So that's kind of how I stayed in his good graces too.
That's cool, man. Was he ever worried about your head at all? Did he ever, because all the knowledge we have now is kind of new about, all this impact and the toll it takes on athletes, brains and their, cognitive and behavioral performance. Did he show any, concern about that back then? Because he's an orthopod, number one, but I didn't know if he ever mentioned that.
Yeah, he was. That was probably his number one concern beyond just bones and all that stuff. So in middle school, he had me doing neck exercises, neck strengthening exercises. 'Cause I actually struggled a little bit with stingers at the beginning when I began playing football, just because I didn't have the neck strength built up. And so I'm very thankful for my dad in that way. Like, very early on, I understood having a strong neck prevents a lot of the head injuries, the concussions, because the muscles in your neck are able to absorb a lot of that impact. And so when that happens, it doesn't get transferred to your brain. Your head's not moving as much. So yeah, I like hammered away at all the different neck strength exercises. And that was just honestly became part of my routine in college and the NFL too, making sure it was always staying strong.
Okay, yeah, no, it's that makes sense. I mean, we know that you can have the biggest neck in the world, but every time you come off the line, that brain moves. But from lowering some of the concussive thresholds, it does help, man. I mean, what do you just have you put like concrete blocks around your neck and lift them up?
Yeah, or even just like manually, like just even putting your hand to different sides of your head, to
Okay,
the front,
all
to
right,
the back.
isometrics.
Yep, doing isometrics. And then thankfully with just technology too, there's a lot of now neck machines that are strictly just for that. So I would hammer those away too, just because I knew how important it was and really, like, once I got a hang of that, my stingers really went away.
Okay. Yeah, cool, man. Yeah. So ACC comes through, and now it's time for the big old NFL, man. How was draft day for you?
It
Draft's a
was
long thing, right?
Yeah,
I
so
mean, you
it's
get
3 days, yeah, and, earlier it talks about I was 3-year starter, All-American, I was a captain, All ACC performer. And so your ego, you feel like, hey, I've done some good things that I feel like I've proven enough where I can, maybe I'm not a first round pick, but hey, maybe I can go in the fourth, fifth, sixth round. And so all those days pass by, you realize you're not going to get drafted and you don't know what to expect when you don't go undrafted. I mean, I really didn't know what to expect. So as soon as the draft end booms, I get a phone call and it's the Dallas Cowboys. And they say, "Hey Matt, we would love to sign you and think you're a great player." I'm like, "Okay, that's awesome. Like, can you give me a second to think about it?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." So I hang up the phone, tell my wife, or about to be my wife at the time, and I say, "Hey, I think we're going to Dallas." She's like, "Oh my gosh," like, almost starts to get packed. I call back the number. I said, "Hey coach, I'm ready to be a Dallas Cowboy." And he said, "Oh, sorry, the spot's taken." And I'm like, okay. So then I hang up the phone. I'm like, plans changed. We're not going to Dallas. And so now I'm really starting to freak out because I just didn't understand, like, that's how quickly your window of opportunity is. And
wow.
so 5 minutes later, Baltimore Ravens call. And they said, "Hey Matt, same thing. We think you're a great player. Think you could really contribute to the team." And I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. Like, yeah, I'm
Now,
all in. Right then, it's like, boom. Then it's like, all right, I guess I'm going to Baltimore. So my wife and I drive up to Baltimore, and kind of the rest is history. But that draft time was really crazy because it's a long wait. I fell asleep probably on the third day, started the fourth round because it's, mid afternoon. You're just, the emotions, the highs and lows of it, you're just exhausted. And yeah, so it was kind of a crazy time. And basically, in like a span of 10 minutes, I had to decide my own destiny. And luckily, it worked out with the Ravens.
that's great, man. And then, yeah, NFL's a business, man. I mean, I was talking to another NFL player, and it's just like, dude, when I got let go, I got let go, right? And it's and you understand it, but it's like the commitment that you make to the sport, right? And then the hope that you can actually get up on that stage. So, where did you start? I think it was on the practice squad with the Ravens, and then what it take to get you up on the field where you started full time?
So it took that whole year of practice squad, which was actually what I really needed. So at Duke, I had a redshirt year, which was great. I needed it to physically, mentally develop, technique wise, speed of game, all that. Same thing with the NFL. I really needed that year to understand what it means to be a pro, to get a routine, to build the right habits, the discipline. And so it was actually a great year for me to just like observe and understand what this game is all about at the highest level. So then I come back the next year in 2017, feeling really good, play a whole bunch of snaps in training camp. Again, like, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling confident. Started every single preseason game at three different positions at guard and center. And I get cut and I get down on myself. I'm pissed. I'm like, what did I just do all of this for? Like you said, the commitment. I committed a whole off season to lifting, getting bigger, getting stronger, more technically sound, and I still fell short. Well, 2 weeks later, the starting right guard, Marshall Yonda, goes down with a broken leg. That next day, they're like, "Matt, we're gonna pull you up to the active roster. You're going to be our starting right guard." And Thursday evening, we head to London to play the Jacksonville Jaguars. So you're going to get your first start in Europe. I'm like, all right, sounds good. Like, I just didn't even have
I mean,
time to react. So that's just how quickly things change too. And so that was another teaching moment for myself in the NFL, how week to week it is. things change so fast. You have to be ready at a moment's notice. And it taught me too, like, to not feel sorry for myself. Like, you've got to stay resilient. You got to push through, work even harder, because really, like, I had mentally checked out for 2 weeks. I wasn't involved in the game plans. I was just doing my job on practice squad. Yeah, it just wasn't a good feeling, them saying I'm the starter and then me having to, like, in my own brain, like, I have to restart and catch up. So that was a huge learning moment for me.
Yeah, I mean, it says a lot about, people that when I talk to NFL players or anybody when in life that stays in the game, right? Even through those moments, because when you do get, smacked in the head like that, you have two options, man. You can walk away and try something else, or you can just keep at it, right? And obviously you kept at it and it paid off. Yeah, there's a lot of lessons there, and talk about how that's helped you in life. Was that like your most down moment in the NFL right there when you took that cut, or were there other episodes that you recall where things just didn't work out the way you had, and you had to rely back on that learning moment to push on?
Yeah, there were definitely multiple moments. Just that's just kind of the ebbs and flows of the NFL and just how competitive it is. And then, so 2 years later in 19, I'm having my best year as a player. I'm, starting to get voted into Pro Bowl conversations, where we ended up setting a record as an offense for most rushing yards in the NFL, in the NFL history. And we're playing at Los Angeles on Monday Night Football, and I get a defensive lineman thrown into my knee, and I tear my ACL, my MCL, my PCL, and I dislocate my kneecap. And that completely changed the trajectory of my career. I mean, in that moment, I was like, no one's going to outwork me. I went through a grueling rehab process, came back 9, 10 months later, started that 2020 season, and struggled a lot with self confidence, doubt, turned to anxiety, and I just did not play well and actually had to get benched midway through the season. And then again, in that moment too, it's like, do I feel sorry for myself, or do I find a way to get out of this rut? And so I just embraced my role. I became like an extra offensive lineman. I, again, talking about that moment, 2, 3 years prior, getting cut for the second time, I realized I had to stay ready, because I didn't know when, the guy who ended up starting at center got hurt, a few series into a game when we played the Giants. And then boom, I'm right back in as the starting center. And so all those moments kind of build off of one another. And you have to go through those hard, difficult moments in order to figure out, okay, what am I made of? How am I going to get through this? And what is this actually teaching me? So those were all things that I was able to use throughout my career. And it really helped me navigate just great seasons, losing seasons, when I'm not playing my best, when I am playing my best. So it all kind of plays off one another.
So I mean, during this time, so let me see, when did you retire? 21 or
24, the last season
24? All
I
right, so
finished
not too long
career.
ago. Yeah, not too
Yep.
long ago. And so you've been playing football for about, I don't know what, since fourth grade I mean, for middle school, what's that, 20
Like
years?
20 years, yeah.
Yeah. So 20 years. And during this time, have you ever noticed the impact of all those years of football when it comes to your mental health? We know that that on the football team, the linemen absolutely are the receive the most subconcussive hits of any position on the field by far, right? Followed by your linebackers, maybe your tight ends, but nobody takes and my son was a blindside guy. Nobody takes more hits than the lineman. And then you talk about playing back to back in high school, right? So was there any point during this time when you started to feel the impacts of all that wear and tear on your brain?
There wasn't too many moments. I had probably a couple, like, bell rung moments where I knew when I got hit a certain way. When I got hit twice under my chin, front, like I'm climbing up to a linebacker, and a linebacker like drops his center of weight and like launches like into you essentially. And those were once at Duke, once in the NFL. And those two moments, it was weird because it was like new because I was seeing different colors, but I had no other symptoms of a concussion because I just known what they were. Like I wasn't dizzy. I really wasn't confused. I had no headaches. No, like I could go back to film. I could be in my room watching my phone, iPad, whatever it was. So that was like okay, that was kind of weird. And those were like the only two ever instances ever I had in my career. But you do reflect and you're like, even though I never really had like a true concussion, like you said, it's those small impacts over and over again. And so I don't know. I tried to like do brain games after away games. Like on the flight home, I'm doing word searches for an entire 2-hour flight. I'm doing like all those, and who knows? Maybe that's a placebo effect to make myself feel better. But seriously, like I would just because those things you were aware of, and you were just like, I don't know, like maybe I can do these things that will keep me sharp. And honestly, like luckily, I don't have any lingering symptoms now that I'm out of football. I feel like I can concentrate. I don't have headaches. I don't have light sensitivity. I can be in crowds, like, and just hearing from other guys, you just pick up on symptoms that they've heard about or how they're feeling. And you're like, okay, I didn't even know those things were symptoms, but you get aware to them. And yeah, I think I'm definitely fortunate in that way where I didn't deal with the big concussions because I knew guys that were dealing with like 3, 4, 5 concussions in college and in their NFL careers.
Yeah, and it's and you are fortunate. I mean, I'll tell you, man, for that statement, I just thank the Lord that, when I talk to linemen, all my all my other buddies are they're struggling, man, and it is, something that, we try to highlight about, being cognizant of this. And if you have gone through all that football and you're not feeling and, you're feeling pretty good. It doesn't mean it, might not impact you later, but, at least right now, man, I mean, that's a lot of wear and tear. And I'm just thankful that you are where you're at. Because I mean, you've played with a lot of, you play with Ray Lewis, right?
I missed him by a few years,
Okay.
but yeah, I'm kind of glad I did.
Yeah. Yeah. He's an animal. But, there's, you played a lot around the greats and we've, it's, I'm just thankful that, you haven't had the impact that we usually do see. Like you're the first lineman I've ever met that has played as long as you have and is not suffering. So I mean that's good. And what do you feel about, when like all these rule changes right now shortening the kickoff distances, these pads to be put on the hat. There is some obviously we know that we have a problem with these contact sports, and the issue is how do we make them safer, right? And the only way we make them safer is to reduce the total amounts of those hits. But it sounds like the NFL is trying. What's at least make the game safer for the professional guys, and so you think those are good moves?
I think they are, especially on the kickoff and kickoff return, because all of those guys are sprinting as fast as they can. And when I first started in the league, like offensive linemen were on kick return. You were part of the wedge, like a 2-man wedge forming right behind the kick or right in front of the kick returner and leading the charge. And like those hits are extremely violent. I mean, I'm moving maybe, 10, 12 miles an hour. The guys who are covering those kicks are moving 15 to 19 miles an hour. And so you can only imagine the level of impact those have. So I think it's great, especially for special teams, for the kickoff return. That's great. And it also like makes the game more creative. It now kind of turns into like a offensive play. So I think that's cool. And yeah, like the helmets, making them as safe as possible. Like that was one thing too throughout my career, was always making sure I had the best helmet. And so like my last few years in the NFL, my helmet, and this is kind of what they do now for all the NFL players and even maybe college too, but it's a custom 3D printed insert of the helmet so that it's custom to your head and it can be fit into any shell of any helmet that's made. And so I really felt safer in that way too. And so I think as technology progresses and as the rule changes kind of follow it and evolve with it, I think it will make the game safer. And yeah, I think it's tough though with offensive and defensive line play to figure out a way to do that.
Well, I mean, and here's where the NFL, I think, does something correct. I mean, they're a little bit late with all this, changes. I mean, these should have been put in place years ago, if you had just ask me. And I do know about those violent kickoffs because in rugby, we do the same thing. We take like I'm a prop. We put all the big guys on one side and rerun at the other big guys. And that's where you kick the ball and we all collide in the middle. It's kind of fun, but
Yeah.
it's just the way it is. And, but the issue with and tell me like most of the players we talk to during the season, you don't contact in practice, like you have very little contact in practice.
Yeah, for the most part, the contact is minimal, which is good.
Yeah. And what about college when you were at Duke? Now, Duke, I know a lot of the Ivy League schools have gone to that same rule, but it's been a while ago. Did you do a lot of contact and practice at Duke during or just in college in general? Not just, I'm not looking at Duke, but like, did they practice the same way or did they do a lot of practice, a lot of
Yeah,
contact?
yeah, no, I mean like our Tuesday, Wednesday practices were full-fledged, like we're not tackling to the ground, but like offensive and defensive line, like it is full go game speed reps. In the NFL too, like you'll probably have one day like that, or even still like it's even just like maybe you'll have two practice periods during the day that's like really heavy hitting, and then other than that it's um the contact is laid off just because the season two is so long and just the battle of attrition as well. You want to save your best players. But yeah, college definitely, I think they're probably still like that. When I was getting done with Duke is when two a days were getting rid of too. So early in my Duke days, we still had two a days. So we would practice twice a day, and those would be tough practices. And high school, we would do two a days as well. So yeah, I'm appreciative that the game has evolved that way. Like you don't have to be. This is where I'm a huge proponent as well, especially with like youth football. Like you don't need to be smashing into each other every single day to get great results on the field. Um, because at the highest level, we're not doing that. And so I think that's a good way where the game has evolved to.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to get people to understand that, especially when you're a child and you've got a developing brain, like and you're in the medical field. Your dad was a surgeon, you're in psychology, you've been around medicine most of your life. The big reason that we have all these problems, the reason why that boy behind me ran off a cliff, and is that you can't, it's like a computer chip, right? You can't drop this thing. You can't mess around, expect the computer to work. So, and so to your point, getting people to understand that, and that by taking the contact out of practice, that's where 80% of the damage. Just think, all right, just in your mind alone, if you did not contact in practice, like the NFL, just say you had one practice a day, how many less hits would you have taken in those 20 years of football?
Right.
Right?
Thousands, tens of thousands.
Thousands, right? Thousands,
Yeah.
right? Tens of thousands of hits saved, and you're like, You're one of the you guys that have survived 20 years and are going on with a healthy perspective, healthy attitude, healthy brain, right? This is just not common, right? So what we're trying to get folks to understand is like, all right, so what is your position on children, playing contact sports when they're young, like this Pop Warner stuff? I mean, what are your position on Pop Warner?
Yeah, I mean, I don't prevent anyone from playing those sports. I, it's just making sure you have a really good coach who understands how to practice, how to play, how to teach proper form, both that's blocking, tackling, hitting, because there's so many bad coaches out there at that level that are just wanting to see kids run into each other as fast as they can and see the big hits from kids who are like 5, 6, 7 years old. So that's where I pull back and push back a little bit is if you're going to do it, you've got to do it right. You've got to do it in a safe way because like you said, like your brains are still very much growing and your bodies are developing and you want to make it as safe as possible. So yeah, like I know my son who is almost 5, like I think he wants to play football. Like he loves football and he loves watching it,
Of course
cheering
he
for it.
does.
And like that's something where it's like, well, maybe he can start in middle school or he can start with flag football or he can even start in high school. Like I want to have the guardrails set up and also like get his body ready too for that kind of physicality
Amen.
because I had really good coaches at Duke who said, the muscles are kind of like your armor when you play football. Wherever you have strengths, that's great. Where you have weaknesses, we need to work on those. So I really took that to heart as well. Like I need to work on making sure my legs are strong and my core, my shoulders, because that's just in my neck, like all my back, all those things, because it all plays into each other. So I try to stress that too with younger athletes. Like you have to get your body ready because it is such a physically demanding sport and it protects you from injury as well.
Yeah, I would. We always tell, we're big proponents of flag till 14, only because this part of the brain here, the prefrontal cortex, the CEO of the brain, this doesn't even start developing till 14. It's the last part of the brain to develop that's responsible for all executive functionings. So we're like, look, can we just not hurt this? Unlike my son, right? Or your son if he plays, right? Which I wouldn't suggest, but you're the father, you know, because that's all he has. That's the rest of his life is right here, right? And then if we could just take the contact out of high school a little bit, right? You just think all those hits we save, and now we have children that, all right, I'm going to be a doctor, or guess what? This guy's a really good guard. Goes to college. They have little contact there, but he goes through college, and then people are coming out of the NFL like you, right? Ready to go on with their life. Where all my NFL buddies, they're challenged, right? And so that's one of our big issues here is just making the sport safer and keeping it going. Hold on one second because I'm an idiot and I forgot to plug in my computer. So, but yeah, the and so where has your psychology background helped you the most in this whole transition through life, man? NFL player, and what are you doing right now? So you got out of the NFL, and then you had to do a transition, which I understand is one really tough thing to go through. So how did you go through the transition, and where did you end up?
So the transition is really tough for everyone. And everyone says that when they're out of the game, but you're still in it. And so it's really hard to identify with like my transition's going to be easy. Like, I've got Duke, I've got NFL on my resume. I'm a good person. Like I'm a husband, I'm a father, like I'm a, pretty simple guy, but until you actually go through it, then you're like, okay, I understand why it's such a struggle. You deal with identity, kind of like your identity crisis. Like, okay, who am I without
Who am
football?
I?
Football was such a big part of my life, and I needed it as my identity because that's what it required to be good at the sport and at my job. It opened a lot of doors for me, gave me a lot of opportunities, but now I can't go to practice and get my anger out or my frustration out on a defensive lineman. I can't just say, if I just fix my technique, then that will just play on Sunday because there's no more games now. So, how do you translate all those different skills and attributes and strengths to really regular civilian life? And that's what's tough, because then that's where I see some parallels with like military and professional athletes. Is not a lot of people went through what you went through, and relating to people can be pretty difficult when you're trying to interview for a job. They're questioning why you're there. They're questioning, well, you've made a lot of money, you can just hang out for the rest of your life. And you're like, well, but that's not me. That's not my mentality. I'm always like, my mentality is like, I want to keep growing and learning and getting better and doing bigger things, like using the NFL as a springboard. So that was difficult for me. Like, I think the no's that I got outside of football were 10 times harder to accept than the no's that I got in football. Because when someone told me I couldn't in football, that just fueled me even more. I'm like, oh, okay, watch me get bigger, faster, stronger, more technically sound. I'm going to study my playbook so I don't make a mistake. Those things were very much in my control, and I was very confident in doing that. After football, when you're not really sure what you want to do, when you're trying to figure out, where do my skills transfer? So you start trying to network and connect with people, and your confidence gets shaken because it's like, yeah, you have football on your resume and you've done a lot of great things and you have these qualities, but I don't think they're really going to transfer in our company. And that happens multiple times. You're like, damn, like, is this me? Is there something wrong with the way I show up and how I'm connecting with people? So that was really hard for me, and trying to find ways like, how do I kind of take control of this situation? What am I passionate about? What are things that, are my gifts? What's easy for me and harder for other people? And so, speaking about mental health, speaking about my experiences in the NFL and college and how I overcame adversity, how I dealt with success and failure, and then taking a lot of those leadership qualities that I learned from sports organizations. And now I can go and talk to corporations about, this is how leadership works. This is how we communicate. This is how resilience is built. This is how trust is built within a company. So those are things that I've been really passionate about. And also, too, staying within the game of football. I love being around the sport. And so getting back to the game in ways of coaching and scouting, front office work. So those are where things are headed now too. And that, I think, that realization of like, you know what? Like, I don't have to be like anyone else and kind of compare their transitions. Like, let me lean into the things that I actually love. Like, I actually love being around football. Some guys, once they're done, they never want to be around football again. They never want to be coaching anything. I'm like, you know what? I actually really love being in this environment. And so I think that's what took a while for me too. Like, a lot of self reflection and figuring out who I am and where do my passions align with my values.
Yeah, it's I mean, I definitely can relate. When I got out, yeah, it's I was told I literally could not find a job for almost 9 months, and ended up being getting ready to become a Walmart security guard. This is before 9/11, right? Green Beret Sergeant Major. I was Paul Blart, man. That's where I was going. So yeah, no fun, man. And it's healthy
And
that you're finding
yeah,
your way, finding your purpose, and continuing to drive on. So before as we get ready to close down a little bit here, what was your most memorable experience as an NFL player? What's your like most memorable memory? Did you
I
ever
would say
you score a
that
touchdown as a lineman?
no,
That's
no,
usually it.
yeah, maybe some fumble recoveries and some not good situations, but I would say like that 2019 season was really special because it was Lamar Jackson's first year as a full-time starter. He
Beast.
went on to win the MVP. We broke the record for rushing yards in NFL history. That was just a really special year. Just not even like the on field stuff, but the off the field, the people who were in the locker room, the staff. That was just like, you don't realize how special and quick those moments are. What else? I mean, just like seeing my kids be in an NFL stadium. My daughter took like some of her first steps in the Ravens football facility. And like those are memories I'll always cherish. And it was like 2 years ago where I think it finally clicked for my son, who's about to turn 5. I was with the Dolphins and we were playing the Dallas Cowboys on like Sunday night. And I think that's when it was like the light bulb of like remembering an NFL game and the stands and the cheering. And so those are really like those moments too that you get to share with your wife and kids. Like that's what I remember too. Like those are really cool special moments because I still bring them up to you. They're like, "Dad, remember when you were playing with the Rams and it was Christmas Day and the Grinch was dressed up in the stands?" And I was like, "Yeah, like I remember I think I saw the Grinch and they were like, it was awesome." So and you just don't even realize like how much they remember. You know, that was when my son was 2, my daughter was like 4 or 5, but they remember those things. And that's really cool too. So that's what I definitely take with those memories.
What's really cool, Matt, is that you've just survived 20 years of football and you're here for your family, man. And well, those memories you can remember, and that you guys are going to be happy together going forward when, you know, the other people that have played as long are unfortunately not there. And I think that's a blessing. And I am, when I talk about memories, I'm thinking about, whatever, championships, whatever. And for you to say my family, you're a good man, man. And I think you're going to go far in life. And I think that I'm very, just very thankful for you and what you're going to bring back to football as you look at, coaching. And we talk about, you know, saving tens of thousands of hits to kids by coaching them better. And as we move forward, so last thing, what are you doing now? How do people find you? Do you what do you have a website? How can people get a hold of you? Brag about Matt Skura, man. What do you got?
I have a website. It's super easy. It's mattskura.com. And so that'll take you to my website. I do public speaking, and that's been an awesome way for me to connect with tons of people. I do speaking engagements virtually, in person, with corporations, small businesses, sports teams. So that's been great. I also write a weekly newsletter, comes out every Thursday. You can find it either on LinkedIn or Substack. And again, my newsletter is just Matt Skura's newsletter. I like to keep things really simple and streamlined. On Twitter, you can follow me at mskura62, Instagram mskura62. So it's really easy. Once you find me on one social media site, you can find me just about on all of them. And yeah, so I love writing my newsletter. It's taking all the experiences that I've had from football and applying them to life now, sharing what life is like now. You know, I've got 4 kids. We had twins a year ago. And so
Congratulations.
just all of those things, like the transition from to life now. How do we build better teams, better systems, all those different things? So that's been a great exercise for me. I've always been someone who likes to journal. So journal is a great mental health practice that I like to do. And so I was basically able to take my thoughts from my journal and share them with the world. And so that's what I like to do and where we're going.
Cool, buddy. All right. Well, as your family grows, stay in touch. If your son wants to play football before 14, give me a call, man. I'll go ahead and give
I
you all
will.
the science research and say, not right now, because I love you too much. And I'll send you a copy of my book, so at least you're informed. But thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story, Matt. Amazing. May God bless you and your family on your journey. And like I said, please stay in touch for anything you need. We're here for you, sir.
Thank you. This was awesome. I really appreciate it. It's great meeting you. And yeah, we'll talk soon.
All right. Another great show, folks. Really remember, I don't have my book, but remember, go to the website, www.mpmacparkmanfact.org. Download your free copy of the book. Remember, we have the Head Smart Concussion app on Google and the Apple Store for you all. The summit, the second annual summit on repetitive brain trauma is here. The United States Special Operations Commander is going to be speaking. Frank Larkin from 60 Minutes is going to be there. We have NFL players, NHL players, all talking about repetitive brain trauma. Matt, you're more than welcome to come on down. Let's talk about how do we make sports safer. And the only way is to go ahead and reduce those little dings that we take over years of playing these sports. And we're going to work together to make that happen. Till next time, please like us. Please subscribe to us. Please pass us around. Follow me on Twitter at Bruce Mac Parkman. And we'll hope to see you again on the next show of Broken Brains with Bruce Parkman. Remember, you only got one melon and your kids only got one melon. Take care of that puppy because it's all you guys have. God bless you all. We'll see you next time on the show. Take care.